Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit today about trying to get your little finger under control, trying to get your fingers really, really close to the fretboard, and a lot of misconceptions over that topic because I had a few comments on my spider exercise video about how the spider exercise was designed to keep your fingers close to the fretboard. It actually does the opposite if you do it wrong, so that's why I wanted to go over this, because I think a lot of people are getting this somewhat mixed up. The reason why any finger particularly flies off the fretboard is because you have too much force in the rest of the hand. Again, not to sound like a broken record here, but it's very, very true. So when we're practicing anything in terms of either hand synchronization or any lines like what I just did with those 3-note per string runs up and down, what a lot of people will get is they'll get something that looks a little bit like this, where you get like a and you can kind of really see that little finger move out the way. Now, the reason for that a lot of the time is not because your little finger isn't trained to move efficiently, it's because the other fingers are putting in too much force. This is where everyone gets it backwards. So I just want to give you a really quick example, and this should instantly fix the little finger problem. So this is where it gets interesting, is because hopefully if you do this right, you don't need to practice this for hundreds and hundreds of hours. You can hopefully immediately see where you're going wrong. What I want you to do, very simply, we're going to take that is just a 6-note per string A major scale going downwards from the 12th fret. So if you want to follow along with this, that's what you're doing. All I'm going to do is I want to try and play the first note here, and then what I'm going to do, which is slightly unusual, is I'm going to try and get the second 2 notes, but I'm going to try and just hover my fingers over them, so literally just touching the string. So I'm not muting anything here. That's not a mute from this hand. It's a mute. It's basically just touching the string. So you should get something like this. So one note of those 3 on each string so one finger you can hear, the other 2 you can't. The reason why that's kind of useful is that when you try and speed that up, you're going to find it's a little bit tricky to get the synchronization with that exercise at a high speed, but you can immediately see that little finger is not moving. So if you want to work on synchronization, the thing to do with this is just try and focus on each downstroke. Like that. You can hopefully see what I'm doing there when I'm trying to focus on that downstroke every 6 notes. And that's a little bit easier. It's kind of hard for me to demonstrate this as well because there's a slight delay on recording at the moment, so I'm kind of hearing something different to what I'm actually playing, which is more difficult to demonstrate some of these things. But you can hopefully see that synced up pretty nicely as soon as I started focusing on where the downbeat is every 6 notes. But if you're practicing this stuff and you want to get those fingers under control, very, very simple. Literally just only play the note on the little finger. Can't play that faster there, I don't think, but you get the idea. So we can get really, really quick with this if we want to. And like I say, that is literally the way I'm feeling that. And this is really important because I think a lot of people don't appreciate this enough. When I'm trying to do that, the thing I'm paying loads of attention to is not how it looks with this hand, it's not how it sounds, it's how it feels to go down that scale. And it's the guitar, and I think most musical instruments in fact are very much tactile things when you learn them. You learn them through muscle memory more than you do through sound and more than you do through visual elements of it. So that's something to really remember when you're trying to practice technique. If it looks really good and it looks really efficient, but your fingers are really tense and you can't move them very well, then it's not going to be that useful. Whereas if it feels really loose and really natural to play, that's the difference. So like I say, when I'm doing this, what I'm trying to get is, it almost feels like I'm not even using this little finger to do that, because the touch is so light. And I'm allowed to do that because the other fingers aren't cramped up playing these two notes. So there, it's a heavier string, so I might need slightly more force here, but just because I need more force on the little finger doesn't mean I suddenly apply loads of force with the other fingers. So hopefully you can kind of see how that changes. And it's really interesting because I've literally got students to do this in the middle of a lesson, and you can definitely see the difference between, you know, their fingers flying out here for some reason and then suddenly being super efficient. So you don't train efficiency, if that makes any sense. You don't. It's not something that you just you play loads and then eventually your fingers move closer and closer to the fretboard. That's not how it works. The excess motion here is a after effect of having too much tension in the hand. And you can really, you know, if I play, just to play devil's advocate here, if I play none of the notes in it, that's kind of tricky to do when I'm just like hovering my fingers and just touch sensitive on the very end of the string without actually fretting anything, like this. You can see how efficient that motion is. As soon as I go, as soon as I try and really, you know, hammer those fingers into the fretboard, you can see where the extra motion comes from. So that's where a lot of people are going wrong. That's why, you know, going back to that spider exercise, why that's not a good idea and why it doesn't work. This is also how you can practice some of your patterns and get that little finger much more under control than just trying to control it, because trying to control it is not going to work. Give that a go, let me know how it goes.